Ladies and gentlemen, feds and degenerates, cuckolds of all ages, it's that time once again. It's Mild's Culture Plate. I am your host, Mild Kevin Miles, and it is Wednesday, October 16th, 2024, and you are locked in for a packed show. So welcome. Um, Obviously, we're going to start the show out like we usually do. Anyone out there in the chat, come on in, type hello to me. Let me know you're out there. Say hi. Anyone whose comments shown on the stream, of course, you're gonna get a toast and your chat shown on screen here. And gonna be trying to finish off the rest of this Four Roses bourbon here. See if I can finish it off. Oh, not quite. Looks like there's barely enough for a mixed drink later. I spilled a little tiny speck on my desk. Let the Bat family back there hold the whiskey there. How you doing, folks? It's been a crazy week. Yeah, the title of the stream, there was a contentious interview aired by Fox today with Kamala Harris. We might be covering a little bit of that. I try not to get into all the ins and outs of the election BS, but whenever we have a candidate who goes on a news outlet that might be antagonistic, or the debate streams or something like that, whenever you see one side interacting with the other side, so to speak, we'll cover a little bit of that. And so we're going to cover that. We're going to cover a little bit of Diddy. We're going to cover some different police activity, and we're going to cover immigration. So stay tuned. Come on in, say hello. Let's kick this shit off. First off, cheers to anyone out there. Been a while since I had a good bourbon. Okay, so top of the news today, we have a celebrity death. We always like to knock those out at the beginning of the show. Liam Payne from One Direction has died at age 31. And we have this post from Colin Rugg on Twitter. He died after falling from his third-floor hotel room in Argentina. Apparently, there are photos of this out there, and also allegedly TMZ has like real close-up photos of the body, and they're not releasing it. They just kind of released his arms laying there, kind of creepy and macabre. But if you're into that stuff, here, the season of the dead, so to speak. If you're into that creepy stuff, it's out there. I personally don't like showing that kind of stuff on TV or on my stream, excuse me. So yeah, not going to be doing that. Anyway, so the development comes after his ex-fiancée, Maya Henry, started legal proceedings against him. Henry told lawyers to issue a cease and desist letter after he allegedly kept contacting her and her family. Maya Henry issued a cease and desist last week to Liam Payne following the emergence of new and concerning information, lawyers told Mail Online, Daily Mail, in a report that was released yesterday. She's retained attorneys Marco Crawford and Daniel Cerna to represent her. That's her only comment. Henry recently came out with a new novel called Looking Forward, which is about a girl who falls in love with a pop star. Definitely inspired by true events, she said in May. So there's that. So yeah. Wow. So yeah, dead at 31, and the reports are that he literally just fell off the balcony of his hotel room. Yeah. So I guess yeah, we can go ahead and get into the Kamala Harris stuff. And let me tell you, after that interview, I feel like this homeowner in this next clip here. I feel like this homeowner after that interview.
Hello. What up, dog? My name is Alberto. We came from Culinary Union Workers.
Culinary Union Workers. Hang on. Let me back it up a couple seconds here so you can hear the full introduction here. Make sure the volume's up. The volume is not up, so here you go.
I knock at the doors and try to endorse votes for Kamala Harris. Fuck Kamala Harris. Okay. Thank you.
There you go. Trying to get votes for Kamala Harris. Fuck Kamala Harris. Okay. So yeah, the Kamala Harris interview, here's how it started. Right? Here's how it started between Brett Baer and Kamala Harris.
How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Now, understand, okay, and what did you hear? I mean, I'm pausing it because I want you to take in what he asked. He asked a question that has a solid, easily identifiable answer. How many migrants would you say your administration took in? It's a number. He's not asking her to rant about shit. He's not asking her for answers about what she would do with the immigration situation. He's simply asking, how many migrants have we taken in 3.5 years? Here's her answer.
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have.
She agrees with him. He didn't say anything. He asked for a number.
And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you
now,
just a number? Do you think it's 1 million?
But just the number. Just give me a number. You think it's 1 million?
3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let me just ignore what you're asking and get to my point.
The point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have
it's a rough estimate of 6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question. I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when
I was beginning to answer the question you hadn't asked. Literally, I was beginning to answer the question you hadn't asked. Jesus.
you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead,
in Mexico.
Included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act.
Bill, okay, again, you rescinded the executive order. Do you regret that? We offered Congress a chance to do something different. That would be like me going to my wife or girlfriend or you know, that would be like you going to your spouse and saying, "Hey, let's go out to dinner tonight. My treat." And then getting sick and then being like, you know, I don't know. I'm just not feeling up to it. But hey, my cousin Jimbo will go get DoorDash and bring it to you. Right? She's taking the responsibility out of her own hands to do her job and placing it on the Congress. And again, I get into it all the time with leftists because you know, they want to make excuses that the vice president can't do anything. But she's said, and Biden has both said now that she was an integral part of all the policies that they put forward. So, I mean, this is on her head. She's the border czar.
Before the Chips and Science Act, before.
See, now listen to this, okay? Because I want you to really understand what she's saying when she says this. Understand where we were in 2020 and 2021. Okay, January 2021, we were heavy in the swing of COVID. We started seeing inflation creep in. We started seeing the crime creep in. Immigration was a problem. But let's be honest, the pandemic was a problem. The economy was a problem. The job situation, getting people employed, was a problem. And Brett Baer asks her, was it a mistake to rescind the Trump executive order on immigration? Because it wasn't perfect, but you know what? It wasn't the big issue. And her answer is, before we did anything about the economy, before the infrastructure bill, before COVID, before any of these things, the first bill we sent to Congress was immigration. The absolute admission, the absolute middle finger to you, the American voter. Bulldozer 74 in the chat over on Rumble. Harris ate shit in that one. Yes. Cheers, brother, and welcome. Yeah, and it got worse and worse and worse. We're not going to cover all these issues. We're not going to rehash the whole 30-minute interview, but I just wanted to show you how it started out because it just continued.
Before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill.
Now, mind you, his question was, how many migrants have come in? 6 million. He had to answer it himself because she wouldn't answer it. And then, do you regret rescinding it? And she's going off on this
Practically
tangent.
within hours of taking the oath was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the. Yes, ma'am.
May I finish?
Pathway to citizenship. Oh, may I finish? He's correcting the record that she's fucking lying about. Can I finish? Can I finish?
May I finish responding,
But here,
please?
but
But
this,
you have to let me finish,
you had the
please.
White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and
in
they
the
didn't
middle
bring up
of
that bill.
responding to the point you're raising,
Okay.
and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question,
Day one.
it is a
Day one.
priority for us as a nation.
It was a day one priority. Again, not the jobs, not the economy, not COVID. The day one priority was, we don't want to do our jobs to secure the border. We're going to kick that over to Congress and have them push citizenship.
And for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things.
Yeah, we have done a number of things to make someone else responsible for it. We got Pessimist Possum over on X saying, the earrings are back. Oh, yeah, we got the earrings back. Oh, shit. Oh, great. I love the internet. The internet never fails. And look, I do recommend everyone go watch the rest of that interview. It's a disaster. And she just, it's more of the same with every topic like that from, oh my God, he nailed her on the transgender surgeries in prison and basically kept asking her, do you support this? Do you support this? Here, let me see if I can bring it up here. Do, 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 do. And of course, the top result is a damn screenshot. Oh my God. I'm going to have to go to. Let's go to Trump War Room because he's got it all. Oh, dear Lord. Trying to find it. Trying to find it. Oh. Here we go. Found it.
And to transition to another gender.
I will follow the law. And it's a law that
He asked her, would she support using more money to fund transgender surgeries in prison? And her answer is, I will follow the law.
Donald Trump actually followed.
I will follow the law.
You're
Trump
probably
followed.
familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing, stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never.
Okay, and yeah, she mentioned that the Trump campaign spent $20 million or something on that ad. What is your campaign spending money on? And where are you getting the money? I mean, if you're going to, again, throwing stones in glass houses. Bill Dozer says, Brett Baer actually impressed me in this when he actually did the job. Yes, less Botox. I was, when I first heard it was going to be Brett Baer, I was like, oh yeah. Yeah, Brett Baer is not a huge fan of Trump, so yeah, obviously I thought it was going to be milquetoast, but he stepped up to the plate and he held her feet to the fire. And those
advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition
well,
surgeries
you know what, you got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
No gender surgeries happened during his presidency. So her whole point is Trump followed that same law. Well, yeah, he followed the law in essentially not holding up any that didn't need to happen anyway.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in this pregnancy.
But she wants to fund more.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment?
I will follow the law, just as I.
Will you advocate?
Donald Trump would say.
Okay, there's a difference between advocating for something and following the law, right? Like, I advocate for a lot of things that might not be very legal, like telling the IRS to go F themselves. But I follow the law, right? I don't advocate for taxes. See how that works? Advocating for something and doing something are two different things. Anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on past that. But yeah, he continues to grill her, and it's more of that same talking point narrative. Sidestepping the actual questions being asked, trying to grandstand. Anyway, so here we go. We got Diddy's lawyers demanding the victims' names be made public. Disgraced rapper Sean Diddy Combs, and this is by Ishita Srisvata for Daily Mail. Disgraced rapper Sean Diddy Combs has asked a New York judge to reveal the names of his accusers in a new filing yesterday. His legal team demanded that prosecutors release the identities of his alleged victims so he can prepare adequately for trial. The letter, which was addressed to U.S. District Judge Arun Subramanian, noted that since his case was unique due to his celebrity status, wealth, and publicity, many of the victims have made false to outright absurd allegations. Having their names in the public domain, Diddy and his team believe they would be able to understand the charges better and know which allegations prosecutors are relying on during the trial. But a source close to the investigation claimed to Deadline that Diddy's team are trying to push for accusers to be named in a bid to publicly shame them. Material shared between opposing sides of a criminal case known as discovery is entered into the public record, blah, blah, blah. This case is unique. Okay, yeah, we already heard that. This case has a pervasive ripple effect, resulting in a torrent of allegations by unidentified complainants, spanning from the false to the outright absurd. Yesterday alone, anonymous accusers filed an additional 6 lawsuits. These accusations came on the heels of more than a dozen previously filed and currently pending, several of which had already been discredited, but only after irreparably damaging Mr. Combs' character and reputation. The alleged rapist and abuser's attorney believe that the hysterical media circus caused by the unnamed accusers can irreparably deprive Mr. Combs of a fair trial if they haven't already. They say the sheer scale of allegations means that he's entitled to know the accuser's name so he can adequately prepare a defense. Now, look, I actually agree. Look, we have due process here. We have a Fifth Amendment right to due process, and part of due process is to be able to face your accuser. It's one of the unfortunate things about our system, but it's required. We have to do it. I know it's scary if you're an actual victim to come forward and shine a light that might be shown by the media on your own life. But unfortunately, it's the only way true justice can be sought. And, fuck a bunch of smear campaigns. Even Diddy requires due process of law. Even Diddy requires a fair trial. And being able to face your actual accusers is a fair trial. Now, again, this source close to Diddy's team saying he wants them named in a bid to publicly shame them. Well, you kind of have to do that to some degree. It becomes a his versus hers story kind of thing, right? Or his versus his in some of these instances. Let's be a little honest here. He said, she said. And the only way you can do that, win in a he said, she said, when you've already been smeared by the media is you kind of got to smear the other person too. You got to make them look ready, willing, and able to be as dirty as they're claiming you have been. Anyway, so let's jump over to CNN Business. Why Your Drugstore is Closing by Nathaniel Meyerson. CVS is closing 900 stores. Rite Aid is closing 500. Walgreens announced Tuesday it's closing 1,200 stores, meaning 1 in 7 of the major drugstore chains will disappear. What's going on with America's drugstores? Well, the chains overexpanded in the 90s and 2000s to drive out competitors and draw more customers. They're now shutting down because of shifting consumer habits, competition, and changes in the pharmacy industry. Around 25% of Walgreens stores are not profitable, CEO Tim Wentworth said in an interview with the Wall Street Journal in June, and the chain will look to close stores that are right by one another or struggling to hold down theft. Walgreens and other retailers say they've been hit by shoplifting since the pandemic and resorted to locking up items or closing high theft stores. But shoplifting alone doesn't explain Walgreens' problems, and the company subsequently admitted last year it cried too much over the impact of the would-be scourge. Meanwhile, increased competition and failed growth strategy like acquiring primary care providers continue to have reverberating impacts. We're at a point where the current pharmacy model is not sustainable, Wentworth said in June. CVS closed 244 stores between 2018 and 2020. In 2021, it said it plans to close an additional 900, and earlier this month, it wants to cut 2,900 jobs. Rite Aid filed for bankruptcy last year, closing 500 stores. Lower reimbursement rates for prescription drugs, according to one analyst. The majority of drugstore sales come from filling prescriptions, but their profits from that have dropped as reimbursement rates fall while fees rise. The prices customers pay for drugs and payments pharmacies received are largely determined by companies known as pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs, which negotiate rebates from the manufacturer to the insurer. PBMs have been cutting reimbursement rates to boost their own profits. Elizabeth Anderson, an analyst at Evercore IRI, previously told CNN. The industries complain that PBMs have too much control and can squeeze pharmacies. PBMs argue that they keep drug prices down by negotiating with the drug makers. See, this is the thing. We can't just have a manufacturer, a retailer, and a customer. We have to have all these middlemen, insurance companies, these PBMs, pharmacy benefit managers, and of course, government. Reimbursement rates start to come down and drugstores can't offset it with other growth, then it has negative impact on their profitability. No shit. The rest of the store is struggling. People buying more shit off from Walmart, Costco, and Dollar General. Village MD has not been profitable for Walgreens, and Walgreens has tried to cut costs. Walgreens' coming closures might help the company's bottom line, but are likely to hurt access to health care. Patients will have to travel farther, blah, 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 low income. Yeah, we know. Roughly 1 out of every 8 pharmacies closed between 2009 and 2015, which disproportionately affected independent pharmacies in low-income neighborhoods, according to a study published in the Journal of American Medical Association. The study found pharmacies at greatest risk for closures were those with a large customer base on public insurance, which have lower reimbursement rates, as well as independent pharmacies. So there you go. It's not racism. They just tend to be on government assistance. Okay, let's go over to New York. And let's look at the immigration issue in New York from Eyewitness News ABC 7. Lauren Glassberg here. NYPD says that migrant children behind several violent crimes near Times Square. A string of robberies targeting people in Times Square. NYPD believes there's nearly 24 young migrants behind the crimes. Suspects as young as 11 years old, and their ages police say will allow them to get away with it. As a result, they stay out of jail and keep targeting New Yorkers and tourists. Police say they first targeted Central Park during the summer, and now Times Square is their playground. Reckless and ruthless of a crew as we've seen, the Assistant Chief of Detectives Jason Savino said. When you look at this core group of 20 individuals, this is their ground zero. Savino focuses on gangs and said this gang is made up of asylum seekers being housed at Roosevelt Hotel. Now, how many times have we heard that name, Roosevelt Hotel, in connection with the migrant problem over the last year? They're a subset of the gang Tren de Aragua. How many times have we heard that name lately? And they self-identify as, quote, Los Diablos, or the Little Devils of 42nd Street. And they even post about their crimes, which have escalated. It started with snatches, and then you saw Wolfpack-type robberies where numerous individuals surrounding unsuspected tourists, frightening them and then taking their property. That graduated certainly into knives, and then ultimately there were gunpoint robberies committed by the youngsters. Anastasia Tucker always stays vigilant when she walks through Times Square, and news of the gang, she continues to do so. Quote, I mean, as a New Yorker, you should be, just kind of comes with the territory, but I think more police on foot helps. A better presence. Police say that they are using drones, covert techniques, and uniformed officers to find the offenders, but the big appeal is to the judges. The DA is making recommendations that just aren't being adhered to. We have to look at our judges, Soros, and make them more accountable. Some of the gang members are alone without parents, and the NYPD said most of them come from Venezuela. Police said part of their initiation into the gang is to complete dares to commit crimes, and if they don't, they're forced to lick the subway floor. NYPD says crime has ticked down in the last 2 weeks, and they hope the trend continues. Oh, you gotta love it. Gotta love the optimism. Okay, so back to healthcare news. This is from Yahoo Finance. Novavax studies for the flu and COVID vaccines are on hold over safety. Novavax shares fell 19% after regulators placed a hold on the experimental vaccines because a study volunteer developed a serious nerve disorder. And this is, by the way, from Bloomberg via Yahoo Finance, by the way. The pause applies to the company's standalone influenza shots and the influenza COVID combination vaccine, Novavax said in a statement. Chief Medical Officer Robert Walker said the company doesn't believe causality has been established, and it's working with regulators to resolve the issue. The volunteer, who developed motor neuropathy, which led to problems with movement, had received a combination flu and COVID shot in January 2023. So here we are, almost 2 years since this person got this medical treatment. As part of a study taking place outside the U.S., the study was completed in July, and at that point, there was no indication of a complication, Walker said in an interview. As soon as Novavax received the report of the adverse event late last month, it notified the USDA, he said. There was no indication of serious adverse events in anyone else, he said. Novavax and the FDA will be working with the participants' healthcare team to get more details, including exactly when the health issues began. We will continue to investigate, Walker says. Our first priority is protecting the safety of the participants in the study. The FDA declined to comment. Novavax came to prominence after winning approval for a COVID-19 vaccine during the height of the pandemic, though it faced a rockier path than rivals Pfizer and Moderna. Last year, executives raised doubt about the company's ability to stay in business. It seemed to turn a corner in May, signing a $1.2 billion licensing agreement with Sanofi that included commercializing a combination COVID and flu shot. Yeah. Two things at once. Two things at once. The company's protein-based approach looked to be an effective option during the pandemic when the need for immunizations was widespread. Despite a good trial results and emergency clearance from the FDA, manufacturing delays limited its use. Wow. All right. So there you go. Novavax. No Novavax right now. Because one individual who went through the trials had some serious nerve function. Let's talk about some election news here. All 3 election workers in a Wisconsin town of 800 people have resigned over a long-standing dispute just ahead of the start of in-person absentee voting in the crucial swing state a month before the election. An interim clerk was appointed last week to oversee elections in the Wisconsin town of Westfield, where 538 people cast ballots in the 2020 presidential election. President Biden won Wisconsin by just under 21,000 votes in 2020, but he lost Westfield by 137. Courtney Trimble, deputy clerk in Marquette County, where Westfield is located, will take the job temporarily, the Wisconsin State Journal reported Wednesday. I've been a town clerk, she told the State Journal, referring to her past work in neighboring Packwaukee. I'm now an election specialist for the entire county, so I'm very familiar with how elections work. I'm confident in my ability to train the election workers even in a short time period. I have zero concerns. Okay, you see this one that says Harris? You put it on the count pile. And the one that says Trump, you can put it in the shred pile. No, I'm just kidding. Trimble said 6 volunteers stepped forward after she was appointed, and several others who had previously volunteered after resignations earlier this week. The dispute that led to the resignations is part of a long-running local rift related to a former town board chair who lost a recall election last month, the State Journal reported. Wow. So there's some butthurt. Meanwhile, in a different swing state, we have a ruling in Georgia. Election officials don't get to, quote, play investigator and must certify results. County election boards in Georgia. I think I already covered this, didn't I? McBurney wrote that Georgia voters would be silenced if local election officials were free to play investigator, prosecutor. Yeah, well, I covered this the other day. Damn it. Okay, so let's move on from that. And let's talk about this next story. This has been a viral video. There's some graphic content here. I'm gonna try to stop it right before the dangerous part. But there's been a viral video going around of an incident where a police officer and a young woman were in a confrontation in the hallway of an apartment complex. But anyway, so this story has gotten huge because now I guess the Georgetown women's basketball team. Georgetown under fire for honoring Sydney Wilson, a former player who slashed at cop with a knife in a fatal shooting. The women's basketball team's been criticized for a September 20th tweet mourning former player Sydney Wilson's death at the age of 33, after a video recently emerged showing Wilson was shot on September 16th by a Virginia police officer after slashing at him with a knife. The tweet features a photo of Wilson in her Georgetown uniform and states, Georgetown women's basketball mourns the tragic loss of Sydney Wilson, C13, forever a Hoya. The post has been viewed 8.5 million times and at least 7,700 comments and 1,300 quote tweets as of Wednesday morning. The post was flagged by X with a notation that added the context that Sydney Wilson attempted to stab a police officer who then shot her in self-defense. Wilson, who hailed from Silver Springs, Maryland, according to her Georgetown profile, played for the Hoyas in 2010 to 2013 and served as a captain during her season. She appeared in 31 games and averaged 6.5 points per game in her senior season. The police department released the body cam footage this past Monday. A mental health professional had asked for the police department to conduct a welfare check on her out of concern that she was in an agitated state. And as a crisis intervention trained officer, Peter Liu, arrived at roughly 10:07. The video showed the officer knocking and introducing himself before Wilson closed the door. And we're going to go ahead and just skip this article and jump straight to the video here. And again, I'm going to try to stop it before the lethal activities happen. But this is what happened when the police officer showed up. Now, again, a lot of people have come out over the last couple weeks and said, well, this officer's obviously just a racist and just murdered this woman in cold blood in the hallway of this apartment. And, well, now this has come out, and a lot of people are just fucking eating those words.
How are you? Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, back up! No! Oh, yeah! Back up.
He tells her to back up. She's already sliced at him twice by this point.
Back up. Oh, yeah! Oh, yeah! Hey, man. I got nothing to do. Please back up. Oh, yeah! Back up.
Still asking her to back up as she's continuing to move toward him.
Back up!
And then she slices at him again, and this is when the fatal things happen. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. But he gave her 3 chances to stop trying to stab him. 3 chances to stop trying to stab him. And I do believe that Georgetown tweet might still be up. I thought I saw it while I was doing my show prep. Maybe it's not up. Oh, no, it is. It is still up. Okay. Yeah, so Georgetown still has not deleted the tweet. Look, I get it. You kind of want to mourn those who are lost, even if they've had a mental break. I get it. I'm not saying don't do it. But, maybe at some point you kind of, that doesn't look good. We might have to delete that. Okay. Let's do some more news. And then do some government corruption news, which really is the same. I mean, war and government corruption are hand in hand, really, with these next 5 stories here. And yeah, this is a news article heavy show today. Sorry I don't have the viral clips. I'm going to try to make a better habit of saving the viral shit. Okay, we've got Biden announcing $425 million military aid for Ukraine. Biden spoke to Zelensky on Wednesday about efforts to surge security assistance to Ukraine and announced $425 million military aid package, the White House said. It includes air defense capability, air-to-ground munitions, armored vehicles, and critical munitions, the White House said in a statement. Zelensky, writing on Telegram, expressed gratitude to Biden, both parties of Congress, and the American people. You're not welcome, sir. He said he spoke to Biden about Kiev's 5-point victory plan, which he presented to Parliament on Wednesday. I proposed considering the possibility of joint weapons production, he said. We also discussed the importance of additional training for Ukrainian soldiers. Ukraine, he said, thanks the United States, quote, for its readiness to help Ukraine strengthen its position to compel Russia towards honest diplomacy. All right, then. In other war news, you have RTX subsidiary Raytheon to pay $950 million to settle foreign bribery and export control fraud probes. The Department of Justice investigations into the alleged government contract fraud scheme and violations of foreign bribery laws and the Arms Export Control Act. Raytheon also agreed to pay more than $124 million to settle charges filed by the Security Exchange Commission that had violated the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act in connection with paying bribes to more than $32 million of a relative of the Emir of Qatar and to military and government officials in that country in exchange for obtaining defense contracts there. More than $22 million of that settlement will be offset by Raytheon's settlement with the DOJ. Deferred prosecution agreements in federal district court in Brooklyn, New York, and Massachusetts. In the Massachusetts case, Raytheon admitted to engaging in two separate schemes to defraud the Defense Department in connection with the Patriot missile system and a radar system, along with other defense products and services. The company will also retain an independent monitor for 3 years to enhance its compliance as part of the settlement, which the DOJ announced. Raytheon engaged in criminal schemes to defraud the government in connections with contracts for crucial military systems and win business through bribery in Qatar. A Deputy Assistant Attorney General Kevin Driscoll of the DOJ's Criminal Division said in a statement, such corrupt and fraudulent conduct, especially by a publicly traded U.S. defense contractor, erodes public trust and harms the DoD, businesses that play by the rules, and the American taxpayers, Driscoll said. RTX said that these legacy legal matters relate to conduct that occurred prior to 2020. And they're taking responsibility for the misconduct that occurred. We have worked diligently during the investigations to remediate that misconduct and continue to do so. We're committed to working closely with the incoming independent monitor to improve and further our ethics and compliance. Fun times, fun times. The Supreme Court has tossed out a decision letting 18-year-olds carry guns during an emergency in Pennsylvania. Wow. From the AP. Tossed out a decision. There were no dissidents in the High Court's brief order. It let stand a ban on people aged 18 to 20 carrying guns in public during a declared state of emergency. The case comes amid major shifts in the firearm legal landscape following an influential Supreme Court decision in 2022 that claimed to expand gun rights. The High Court said any firearm restrictions must have a strong basis in history. Multiple gun laws have been struck down in the wake of that ruling, including age restrictions by judges in states like Minnesota, Virginia, and Texas. The Pennsylvania challengers argued that young people weren't barred from carrying guns at the time of the nation's founding, so they shouldn't be today. But the Supreme Court handed down a new opinion this year that upheld a law intended to protect victims of domestic violence. And they said on Tuesday, the Third U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals should reconsider the Pennsylvania case in light of that decision. Pennsylvania officials, for their part, had argued that there's a long-standing tradition of limiting guns to people 21 and older, dating back to the 1850s. Yes, but the entire country has a long-standing history of the militia being any male of capable age. And that could be 14, 16, depending on the male. Okay, so now we got this. I ran across this video of this gentleman in North Carolina who has been working with FEMA. Let's hear his tale here.
That's because I've been volunteering with the distribution of food and supplies with FEMA here luckily at the same building where the portal is, my business. On Friday, I found out companies have been sending these products that are not going to be distributed to the public because they don't meet certain health requirements. And they're going to store them in Suite 1400, the big room, which is where I have events. And
Okay, so he's renting out this hall for events and to run his own business. And FEMA has been getting all these donations of various goods from around the country. And they have just deemed some of them as too unhealthy to give away to people. Like, we're not going to give it away because, it's just we don't want you to have the sugar, right? And we're gonna see here what some of these products are. And so this guy, it's in the all these warehouses have been in the same building that he's renting this space, and he's like, yeah, I'll help them on the side, and I'll do my business here. Well, now, no, we're gonna store all these unhealthy foods that we can't distribute. We'll just store them right here where you run your business.
and a big portion of my business model, for the next 90 days, they have to store all these hazardous food products, basically pallets and pallets of
Prime sports drink.
Can't make this shit up.
Prime sports drink. They can't hand that out to the public,
So
and therefore must take
That's a
this
big
guy's
hit.
business
I'm like, okay,
to have a place to stash it.
no events for 90 days. I can work with that. I still have other spaces. I still have this room, gallery hall, as well as another room on the other side of that wall. And then back here, I have my office.
So he's probably going to have to transform his
Got all
office
the
to an
utility
event
room.
space.
Because there was a utility room, and out here, the courtyard. Finally getting cleaned up. Big mess out here. But I just got a phone call today saying they need the courtyard to
Oh,
put 2 dumpsters in it.
oh no, they're going to put dumpsters in his courtyard.
I said, okay. For how long? And they said, well, and why won't you put the dumpsters in the back with all the other dumpsters? Basically, and yeah, I can't make this shit up. Basically, they said, well, we don't want the dumpsters to be seen by people driving by or whatever. As a matter of fact, we just emailed you your lease termination paperwork.
Oh, so his lease is just terminated.
So
So he's just evicted.
you're telling me
Not just evicted from
FEMA
the
and
warehouse,
the National Guard have just
evicted from the whole property.
commandeered my space while I'm looking for a new place to live, volunteer, and still work to get some income whenever I can. Now it's all gone. It's not, we'll relocate you or compensate you for 90 days. It's straight,
Just terminated.
we need your space. You have 30 days to leave.
30 days out the fucking door.
I don't know what to do. I've been searching for a place like this for 3 years. I just put everything into this, all my time. You know how it goes. The portal.
All
to me
this
is not just
to
my
store
art
some
studio.
pallets of sports drink and a couple
where I make a
dumpsters
living.
because they want the
It
dumpsters out
was
of you.
everything to me. I would get another studio space before I find a place to live.
I'm telling you, it's enough to make a
Anytime,
dude
all the time, every time.
get a
Still in shock. I don't know.
bulldozer.
I really don't know what I'm going to do. Here we go again. Support me if you want to. I really appreciate everybody. I'm just I didn't get wiped out by the hurricane itself, but the company that's doing the hurricane relief. I mean, there's enough space for everybody. Put the dumpsters in the, shitty companies don't send shitty products for your tax break. I don't know. I'm just going to stop bitching. I don't know. It's just so crazy.
Okay, so there you have it. There you have it. Killdozer time. It's enough to drive a person crazy. I mean, if I was that gentleman, I'd squat. Just be a squatter. I mean, if the migrants can do it, why can't we? I mean, it's a fucking hurricane. There was another news story that happened in the past week that I kind of let fly a little bit under my radar. And big shout out to the Quartering and Luke Radowski, especially Luke Radowski, for bringing some eyeballs to this story. There was a news report last week of a Trump rally where the local sheriff had said that someone had showed up to the rally with the intention of attempting yet another attempt on Donald Trump's life. And for all intents and purposes, it does not look like that's the case. And, this was kind of big news story and it kind of poofed into the media and then poofed away. So this is from the New York Post. Trump supporter Vim Miller is in hiding and fears for his life after, quote, delusional local sheriff painted him as a would-be assassin. Vim Miller, a Nevada man arrested on weapons charges outside of a Trump rally in California, says he's been forced to go into hiding and fears for his life after a local sheriff made preposterous and delusional claims that he tried to kill the former president. It's so easy to kill somebody or harm somebody, and that person might think he's a hero in the movement just to ignorance of not knowing the facts, said Miller, a 49-year-old filmmaker and Republican activist, in a post video interview. I've got to reassess everything going forward and look at it with new lenses. Miller said he's a diehard Trump supporter and he's been working to get the 45th president back in the White House. Tuesday, he filed a lawsuit against Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco, who told the media his deputies probably stopped another assassination attempt when they arrested Miller with a shotgun, a handgun, and a high-capacity magazine in his SUV outside the Coachella Valley campaign event Saturday night. Bianco fabricated allegations against Miller, claiming to have thwarted a third assassination attempt against the Republican presidential nominee, Miller's Nevada federal lawsuit alleges. In particular, Bianco first held a press conference on Sunday, which he made a host of preposterous allegations, all perpetuating his delusional and false narrative about Miller, the filing says. The sheriff knew Miller was not charged with any wrongdoing concerning assassination attempts, and that the U.S. Secret Service and FBI agents declined to interview him. It became clear that Bianco intentionally, maliciously, and with a blatant disregard for the truth wanted to create a narrative as to be viewed as a heroic sheriff, the lawsuit states. The lies about Miller allegedly included that he had faked passports and licenses with aliases. His car had phony license plates. He had forged in the weapons and ammo he had in the car, which he disclosed before trying to enter the event, were, quote, red flags of his intent to assassinate Trump, the court papers allege. Instead of correcting the record and apologizing at additional press conferences, Bianco compounded defendants' misconduct, perpetuated a boisterous and delusional narrative that has caused irreparable harm to Miller's character and reputation. The suit adds, within hours of his arrest, which ended with 2 weapons charges and his release on a $5,000 bond, he became internationally recognized. His car and equipment are still impounded, and he's living in an undisclosed location. I'm not going to read the rest of this. I will give a shout out to his AmericaHappens.com. He was on Luke Rudkowski's Best Political show yesterday, telling the tale of what's going on and defending himself against these claims of improper license plates and multiple IDs and all that. He has valid explanations for them all. You know, he's changed his name since moving to the United States because he wanted to appear more American. And he goes from rally to rally. He travels and covers things as a reporter, and as such wants to be in compliance with the law and in compliance with the Second Amendment and the ability to defend himself if he needs to. And he did not try to enter with the weapons. He went to the police and said, hey, are weapons allowed in the vehicle in the parking lot? Or weapons, am I allowed to store my weapons in my vehicle on the premises? He went to the cops to ask them about the weapons policy. He didn't try to sneak the weapons in. So shout out to Vim Miller. And shout out to the Quartering and Luke Rudkowski for debunking this narrative that this man is a violent threat to President Donald Trump. Well, folks, it's now past the top of the hour. And we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up so I can have me some dinner. Again, big shout out to Billdozer74 and whoever else has been watching. I know we've had a few viewers pop in and out. So cheers to you. This show wouldn't exist without y'all. I'm glad y'all stopped by. Feel free to stop by again this Saturday, 6 p.m. Central, and every Wednesday and Saturday, 6 p.m. Central. Same bat time, same bat channel. Right here on Rumble, X, and YouTube, wherever you're watching me right now. Come on back. Come in the chat. Say hello. Get your chats on screen like Billdozer did. Get your toast. Be a part of the party. Be my co-host. And in the meantime, on your way out, please click that thumbs up button. Click that like button. Really helps with the algorithm. And also, if you're new here, what also helps with the algorithm is if you share this off platform, let people know that this was an entertaining show. They should tune in next time. Share it off platform, watch a second video, and of course, like and subscribe. Click that follow button. Click that follow button. All right. Down in the social media, wow, the whiskey's hit me already. Down in the description of this video on YouTube and Rumble, you could find links to all my social media. Feel free to follow me on any of those. If for any reason I need to move a show, cancel a show, whatever, I will definitely try to let everyone know on those social media links down in the description. So please follow me there. And yeah, until next time, folks, take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Outlast those haters. Don't get any on you. And if you do, rub that shit in real good. Until next time, this mild Kevin Miles signing off, saying, hey, folks, it's only hump day. We still got a few left to go. Hang in there. You got this. Love y'all. Good night.